Thank you so much, Lillian. So yes, my name is Darryl Bedford, and I started this journey probably just around lockdown, right? So I have been very prolific from lockdown, yeah. And you'll see that, and I'll ask you again at the end of this lecture and see whether you agree even more once I show you what I have. You can see I've already brought so many things to share with you, so I'm very excited to share my craft, yeah. And that will lead me into my next slide, which is craft. And I'm sure everyone in this room has dabbled in some of these crafts. So not only is this talk about origami or kirigami, which is my craft form, but it really taps into all of these different types of hand-eye coordination skills and endeavors. So let's call mine pleated origami. If you came for a little figure or a swan, I'm sorry to disappoint, right? I really love to fold and to pleat. Now, there must be something about me that really grabbed that, and it could very much be about my personality. Yeah? So I'm dyslexic, work with a lot of autistic students. I'm a teacher of the deaf, so I have additional learning needs that I actually cater for. I'm a trauma-informed practitioner. I am an APA distinguished educator. I've been working as a teacher of the deaf for 27 years, and I am extremely patient. So that may have something to do with origami. When we look at origami, you know the traditional form of origami. It's folding something from one sheet of paper. Does it allow cuts? No. Not pure origami. Whereas kirigami is cut paper, perhaps incorporating some folds also. I have developed a combination, and I call it drawstring origami, and my company is called Drawstring Origami. So it's my original art form that I'm developing, and even just putting out there for people to join the revolution. I'd like to give an example of one of my pieces. It's not just about static, it's all about movement. This could be termed a kaleidocycle. Yeah, often in origami, you might link things together to form something that turns in on itself. And believe me, it's not that mathematical. It's not that complication. This talk is all about really demystifying the fact that my work isn't overly mathematical. It's just built on simple principles. One simple principle on top of another simple principle, and voila, we come up with this. This is more of a traditional origami, but it is modular. So take one module, join it together, and extend it. So luckily, origami welcomes in lots of different types of forms nowadays. They're even starting to welcome in my form, kirigami, into the fold of the umbrella. Oh, well, see, that might be contentious, and that will be really interesting to talk about later on. Yeah, I just put that out there. Okay, thank you very much.
It was into the fold.
I see, into the fold. I see. We weren't disagreeing with me. I'm sorry. I'm going to be full of lots of puns. I will be full of lots of puns. It's just me, okay? Thank you. And now I'm going to be much more full of puns. So here we go. This is modular. Okay. So in its form, this is one unit folded from that fold pattern there. Yeah. This is two units. So I've connected two together and then joined them around. And of course, once again, we have our idea of the kaleidocycle. It's not that difficult to learn. I knew none of this 6 years ago. No, I built my knowledge. And then this is three. Along my journey, I found out about toroidal forms. I was never really that switched on in maths. You know, I forgot all of those concepts. But when I started folding these and making these objects, it all clicked together. I had something to join that terminology with. And of course, I'm not going to go too much into it, but there's a wealth of science and invention that's linked to origami, kirigami. And you can see there that they're making space solar arrays using origami because it has such that wonderful potential of just expanding. say this one here exists just as a tiny, tiny shape, and that's so easy to send out to space. But then it opens out, it expands. I mean, we can even stretch it over our head, which I'm sure you didn't expect me to do. But it gives you that great idea that it is so expansive it then can collapse back into its own form. And that's some of the great properties of origami, kirigami. But of course, another great property is that it can be so rigid, especially pure origami, and it can hold a lot of weight. But I won't dwell too much on that. I'll get search into that yourself. Now, originally, before lockdown, I would have stated that I was a ceramicist. So I teach a lot of ceramics at my school. I have a kiln, and I love pattern also. So one thing we'll see here is the motif. This triangle here, we can call a motif. It's our repeat pattern. This exists not only in pattern, but also in origami, in pleated origami, and in drawstring origami. We will have a tiny repeat pattern that is repeated to create, well, a pattern, a cut pattern. Let's have a look at that. Here up the top there is the motif for the regular herringbone fold. And I think you've probably all seen the herringbone fold. It's so popular. Yeah? So we can compact it in this way to a very tight form. I started around lockdown, and I also brought a cutter, so a paper cutter. It's a home crafter. This one's called a cameo silhouette. You might also have heard of a cricket. And that crafter allowed me to place cuts in my paper. Now, this form is where I started. I started thinking about chainmail armor. So I started to print out things that I could weave in to one another to give me some form of a lattice type work. And there's another example there of the lattice. You can see how it all interlocks. And then one day, eureka. And I did that a lot from here onwards. Yeah. I might not have shouted it out, but it was that one moment when I did something that changed everything. What did I do? I folded it. Well done. Who was that? Very astute. Well done. Well done. In fact, what I might do is just give you a prize. Because I folded it. And then, eureka. At that time, I was entering imagery into Instagram, yeah, and I got a thumbs up with this one. So maybe it went viral. That's what I can consider the thumbs up. And it said to me, I think you're on the right track. Yeah. So essentially, this is just a plate. But because all of the sections within that plate are flexible, I end up with a really lovely effect. I didn't stop there. And you know, all of my work is about touch. I'm very centered on touch, and anyone that does any form of crafting will be all about touch, I'm sure. Yeah. And so with this, it's also about that kinetics. It's about the way that we move things. It's analog. We touch it. It's real. It's three-dimensional. It's so important in our life. Nowadays, within our swipe generation, and within our doom scrolling, we don't have analog within that. And it was a real concern for me because although I am very much technical and very much into the technical, I also like to find that balance between analog and the balance between touch and those important things that we really relied on when we grew up. We are a lucky generation. I'm talking to a lot of you because I feel as though you might be over 25. Or just look at, I think you might be over 25. But then that means that you've actually been able to escape the iPads, the tablets. You might have grown up without those. You might have touched, you might have played, you might have an instinctive understanding of materials. And I think that's really important. And I think we mustn't forget that in our education is to have instinctive play with materials. I love photographing my forms. This one here, I looked at the German artist Karl Blossfeld, who photographs amazing forms in nature. And so I try to emulate his photographic style. But I do like to bring those sorts of ideas into my work. have a look at this. This was a eureka moment. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Right, all good. So within that, you saw that it was compactable in two different directions. Yeah. In fact, that was called drawstring origami. That was my next step, my iteration, which really took things off for me. I've named my pumpkin after it. You can see my drawstring origami fold here has lots of cuts in it, and you might recognize it as looking quite ceramic. So I think I've always pulled to my ceramic form concept and development in my brain when I look at my forms. Here's drawstring origami. Now, this was a eureka moment for me because I realized I could thread a square, pull it, and what shape do I end in? Isn't it amazing? Eureka! Come on, scream out, please. Come on. Eureka! Well done. And again, I mean, I have so many designs. It's not funny, okay? But I like to explore different types of concepts. So how about we be able to pull a single sheet of paper into a fold? I like videography. So I really like to film the combination between the hand, the paper. Yeah, so that's a large part of my workflow when I'm posting to Instagram. But a lot of architects, engineers sort of picked up to this idea that you could do these sorts of things with paper. So that got a wide reach with the sort of work that I did. And then I started finding out about all these concepts in engineering, because an engineer would say to me, oh, did you know that concept is called coupling interaction? I said, oh, fantastic. I'm going to research that because I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. But it's a good window because suddenly a new public from Instagram was giving me ideas of ways that I could stretch. Coupling interaction is basically you will have one hinge or one, what I call a living hinge, one cut that's connected to its neighbor. And whenever you move something, the neighbor moves with that. All right. So one hinge is manipulated, everything around that will move. Yeah, it's that idea of coupling interaction. It all started with one fold. I'm going to take you through my journey. Okay, so I'm going to just let myself bare here and show you my embarrassing post, all right, of when I really thought I was stuck in baubles. Right? It is just the first thing you go for. You make something, you fold it into a bauble. It says, baubles are not just for Christmas. You've got a voiceover there. Yes. Enough of that foolishness. And then I went off to fidget spinners, and they were really popular. If you know, there were some crazes in fidget spinners. And this is once again that idea of the continuous mandala, where it stretches into itself. If you look at the pictures in the background there, you can see a cut pattern. Because I decided if I put holes in there, I'm taking away its stress points, and I can actually make this a really compact form, more compact than origami, because I'm actually looking at the way that it folds. So deep in there, there's cuts and there's holes. And that was my concept to help with my fidget spinners. And then, of course, someone said, you've got to do lighting. That's what you do with paper. You make lights. Oh. So I was contacted by the Milan Design Festival. And they wanted me to put on an exhibition there. And they wanted me to do lighting. So, okay, then. So I spent 6 months making lights. And it was very successful. Yeah. I was contacted by quite a famous packaging company that wanted me to work with their innovation company to look at packaging. So I've packaged all different types of bottles. I won't tell you what they are. So I'll have to film you. Along that way, at this stage, about there, I discovered this amazing lady. She's my guru. I've met her several times now. Her name is Tomoko Fuse. And in fact, she was able to take origami and lift it to high art. Oh, if I ever could get anywhere close to that, I would be so happy. The Denmark University of Soft Robotics contacted me and said, can you work with us and help us develop a soft robot? So I know you've just got so many questions right now, so I'm going to move on from that, but I will come back to that, I promise. I can see some very excited people in the audience. We shall come back to that a little bit later. And then here is my exhibition stuff. Okay, so this one was actually exhibited Origami Society exhibition in Colchester, and I'll show you a little bit more about that a little bit later. This is a sculpture, yeah, but is it? Because obviously with my slams there, I wanted to move. I'm not having something just sit there. Ridiculous. So it transformed into a dress. So there's your gown. We're about to skip that earlier on. Yeah. But more about that later. Wednesday, I just had well, I've done several fashion runways, but I had a fashion runway in Mayfair, in the centre of London. 12 different looks. I collaborated with an artist there. Her name is Dinah Kaminsky. She actually creates crochet. So she crocheted the middle part of this dress here, and then I created obviously the top part and the bottom of this dress. And of course, I couldn't do without Niccolo Urbani, who was a photographer, a fashion photographer for this one. So I've had a chance of working with some real professional people to actually just lift my visuals up to the professional level. This one was for London Fashion Week, and also for a competition called Paper on Skin, which is in Australia, which is my original place of birth. You might have picked that up with my accent, yeah. And so, yeah, I won one of their awards for Paper on Skin for this outfit. You know, it's all about transformation. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, you know, that's the thing, is what I've tried to do is I've tried to make it into a material. So I've tried to think about how can paper be transformed into a material? And also, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to transform. I'm going to make things transform. Yeah. So this, some people might have seen it. It's called a travel wit. It evolved in the 17th century. This is what, it's just my foundation. It's what I discovered around the time that I was doing, I started folding paper. And I like it because it transforms, all right? The street performers would have this lovely piece of paper. They would transform it into a whole range of different types of objects, all right? Let me show you. I might do this without any sound. Yeah, so let's see how I go. Yeah. Okay, so you can see how that got me started. I'm a bit of a performer, yeah, but I do like transformation. I like things that transform, yeah. So it's all that sort of idea, where this, let's take that back. This outfit transforms into a single-celled organism. Who would have thought, hey? So there it is there. It lifts up and covers this lovely lady. No one quite knew what was happening in the audience, I don't think. That's a bit. Neuroplasticity. I'm sure you didn't think that was coming. See, being a educator myself and having a think about what the benefits of crafting might be, I started down that wormhole of investigating neuroplasticity, the idea of our brains and how craft really helps us in so many ways, and ways that we really don't realize. Yeah. So if you think about this statement, it's neurons that fire together, wire together. Yeah, which is a really populist, catchy statement, and it's done by Donald Hebb in 1949. He coined this phrase, and it's really his idea of heavy on learning. It's the construct of learning. It's how our brain forms those links to be able to achieve tasks. And you know it right from the start. Whenever you've done some hand-eye coordination, it starts off really hard. But how long does it take until it becomes automatic? Not long. What's happening is your neuroplasticity or your synaptic plasticity is creating those neural networks that will really help you to move forward. In fact, it almost becomes automatic. And you know the knitters out there or the crochet artists, it becomes so easy that in itself it becomes a meditation. The brain is such an amazing structure. Yeah? And the brain is very much about emotion. Yeah? And very much about how can we regulate our autonomic nervous system, all of those sort of automatic systems that are regulated by, by chemicals. And I put it to you that we have all these chemicals, and crafting really does make us feel good. It really does lower our blood rate. So it's about mindfulness. The repetitive process of folding induces a feeling of relaxation, lowers blood pressure and releases endorphins, which can reduce stress and anxiety. So there we have some of the popular feel-good chemicals that are released during our crafting. So dopamine floods our system when we complete a design task. And oxytocin comes when we interact with others, share or gift our work. So serotonin, slow release of serotonin as we meditate into the fold routine. And endorphins. This is a repetitive process, induces a feeling of relaxation, lowers blood pressure and releases endorphins, which can reduce stress and anxiety. Who has ever experienced a flow state? Absolutely. Where did you experience that flow state? Was it during jogging? Was it during crafting? When did you feel really at peace? Was it during some repetitive task that you do, but you were so complete and so in that and so relaxed? That's what we call our flow state. You know, what I want to do is I would like you all to give yourself a little bit of self-care now. You don't do it all that often. We need to find a little part of our skin that's hairy, okay, because this is where the receptors are. Oh, we've all got hair, come on. I might just have more than others, all right? What I want you to do is I want you to use a special form of velocity, so it can only be about 3 centimeters a second. Just need to use our hands and run it along. 3, just run it along. What we're doing is we're firing special forms of neurons. And these are called C-tactile afferents. And these C-tactile afferents are only triggered with this slow touch and movement. And it's built into mothers. They just know that. Yeah. And it's built into our cats. They just love that. Yeah. But it is really important for us to be able to identify that, because within our crafting, we have a lot of these sensors on us, and we do. And even when I was folding my travel kit, I was activating these sensors. Just this morning, folding this for you. As I had it on the table, I had that really soft movement of my elbows here, or what would you call that? That soft part here.
Forearm.
My forearm as it sort of just brushed against the table, not realizing that sensing, turning on my activators and sending all those feel-good chemicals through my body. Ken Robinson, being an educator, he's my guru in education. Right? He did die around lockdown. His daughter Kate is extending his ideas. The arts, especially address the idea of aesthetic experience. An aesthetic experience is one in which your senses are operating at their peak. When you're present in the current moment, when you're resonating with the excitement of this thing that you're experiencing, then you are fully alive. I worked with my students, a group of ASD students, and they really do need sensory breaks. So they have a lot of sensory toys. Unfortunately, some of these sensory toys get really mucky when they're chewing on them and dropping them on the floor and that sort of thing. So I thought we're going to work with a different solution. And we came up with our calm ball, but it really had to be engineered in the way they helped me was really by seeing if it's strong enough, if it's going to last a couple of sessions, because with proprioceptive skills, my students found that really difficult. They would just rip something, not having that same finite control that we might have when I pass those lovely objects around you, that sort of thing. So that was a lovely, oh, and I've been handing out some of those too to people who I've not asked enough questions, am I? I should ask more questions so I can hand more out, shouldn't I? Okay, so someone tell me, what is a feel-good chemical?
Serotonin.
Excuse me?
Serotonin.
Serotonin. Thank you very much. It's an endorphin. Yeah, it's coming into the system. Yeah. Well, that's enough for now, yeah. Good job. It's nice to see that you're listening. I'm sorry, school teacher, sorry. Back into the origami artist. Back through. Okay, so my core frame aims strength, flexibility, function, and beauty. So that will go into all of my ideas when I'm working. Biomimicry. Very important. You may have seen some of my forms. You might have thought, oh my goodness, that looks like something natural. So it really is the practice of studying nature's successful strategies and mimicking those biological designs to creatively solve human problems with efficient, innovative, and sustainable solutions. My idol, Ernst Haeckel. Ernst Haeckel? You may have seen him. You may know his illustrations because he was not only a botanist, he did not only really support Darwin's theory and tried to popularize his theory, he also used his artistic license and understanding of what he's seeing underneath the microscope to draw these fantastic, arty, scientific objects. And they are just a continuous source of inspiration to me. So I carry that book with me. I've got that book with me also. It's called Art Forms in Nature. Yeah, fantastic lithographs that you can actually have a look and flick through. But they are wonderful. He traveled the ocean, trawling the bottom of the ocean, finding microscopic silica forms that were from single-celled organisms, putting them under the microscope and then drawing them. What an amazing name. So I've taken some of my art forms and presented it in the style of his work. You can see with the numbering, with the, I think I might have made up a couple of Latin terms there along the way, and I might have created some new life forms. Yeah. I love evolution. So for an art exhibition that I sent off to San Francisco, I made these ones here. With this art exhibition, I actually coloured all these with UV. So I sprayed them with UV and then they're exhibited under UV, which I thought really made them pop because you can see when the lights turn back on that you have a completely different type of a look there. So with the UV type of simulation. But it's so tempting, isn't it? What did I do next? I animated. So nature uses soft materials frequently and stiff materials sparingly. So this was from Vogel, and it's better bent than broken. Flexibility in objects is really important. And we don't realize how much of organisms have to be flexible for them to survive. So it's all about survival of the fittest, isn't it? natural selection. Let me show you a fidget spinner upgrade. So it's about maths and complexity. Am I a mathematician? No. Thank you very much. You must know me well. Absolutely not. Okay. But within this, I can say I'm a visual mathematician. All right. So I work with things visually, but I'm very assisted by vector graphics that will divide something in multiple forms for me, wrap it around a circle, those sorts of ideas. So I do also use a lot of graphics to help me with that. So getting me to a really high, you'd sort of think, oh my goodness, this guy has really programmed a lot. Oh, it's always just a flat sheet of paper and a lot of play and experimentation that got me to that stage. A lot of iteration, for sure. But then I always go back to pure origami, because there's something wonderful in pure origami that will springboard my ideas forward. Back again. Have a look at the fold pattern. Isn't it interesting? Because it divides itself. It still has that same idea of the motif. It will divide itself and then divide itself. And there's a form of mathematical term within that. It's like the fractal. There's continually becoming smaller. And that really excited me. So I saw something and then reverse engineered all of this. So I saw that or something similar to that and then worked out how to reverse engineer. Yeah. And then I thought, wow, lighting, of course, lighting. It's got to be a light. Oh, I thought, okay, so if you can divide it along this axis, why can't you divide it along the other axis? And I did see someone had done that. So I had to reverse engineer this motif in the middle there to work out how I could then divide it. It took me a little bit of time, but I did get there and it was successful, yeah? Did I make lighting again? Did I make more lighting? No. Turned to fashion. Yeah. So that's just the way I wanted to keep extending things and lifting things and moving things onward. Creative play. I'm quite a playful person. But so are all of you, I'm sure, because what we do is we play with an idea. We play with something and we ask those what-if questions. They're so important. Have a think about when you ask what-if questions. Is it verbal? Or can you just see it in your mind? It unwraps there and you think, I'm going to aim towards that. Or maybe along the way, I'm going to have to change things. But that's the way that we have to think about what's next. What if? And I'm constantly doing it. I'm always just moving things and playing with something new and discovering things from it and thinking how I can take and how I can iterate from that. If you're not prepared to be wrong, you never come up with anything original. Ken Robinson again, from his book, The Element, how finding your passion changes everything. We'll find out more about him in a minute. Right, so I'm so pleased to say I'm being published, a co-author in the Cyborg and Bionic Systems. I don't know how I got there. No, my sister has absolutely no idea how I got there. My partner has absolutely no idea how I got there, but I'm there. Okay, and I helped to design this. Wow. It's pneumatically controlled. We looked at earthworms. And we're thinking about how the skin of the earthworm grabs on to the ground and can move. So I really did design a lot of different types of ideas for Denmark University. And they tried out my simplest idea. They went with the simplest one. And they tried it out using lots of different machines to have a look at how it can incrementally expand itself. And then they filled it with these little soft silicon tubules that were controlled by air. It's called pneumatics. And then you can see how they're triggering the pneumatics to make it move. And their idea is that this will be great for people like, well, for pipes and oil, where it can go through the oil pipes and clean the oil pipes, or maybe for space. I don't know, but it's all very exciting. I was so disappointed when the university said, we're going to take your simplest one. Been working so hard to do all these complicated skins with hairs that grab. You're going to take my simplest design? Why waste all my time? And there's a real learning experience within that, because actually from simplicity comes great design. Yeah, I think evolution is so simple. I mean, it's evolved over millions of years to be really, really simple and really economic. So I came with a really simple design. Let's look so simple. I did iterate it a little bit, and I worked out a fantastic way to actually extend my hinges. Have you heard of the term digital? Physical, crafting, and digital. So we're bringing digital in there. And of course, I am a digital artist. Yeah. You can see there my fold patterns in the background. So that was my fold pattern for some of my lovely hats that I brought out a little bit earlier. I'll bring one out a little bit later once I go through this. Dots, dashes, what's it all about? This is to the size of my laser cutter. So my laser cutter is 70 centimeters wide, 40 centimeters deep. So I can cut out large pieces of paper. I can fold them, they'll be modular. I can build them into massive gowns, into that sort of idea. But you can see the dots are there to just release a little bit of the fold. The dashes are just to help me fold. So I don't have to worry about folding in half. No, I take that all away. I just love the process, all the processes of my workflow. I particularly like the play and the experimentation. So I get past all that by making this extremely quick and easy. So there we go. We have an outcome is a hat that I created, okay, using the modular units there. I've just recently completed the Scarlet Hat series, which is a whole range of different types of hats. So within there, I experimented with lots of different types of looks. Yeah. These are all my designs. They're perfectly representative of what I made, but all of the models are AI. I'm so much into pattern. My ceramics has always been about pattern, so I like to incorporate pattern into my folds. Yeah. So this is divided into 8 because, as we know, when we fold a paper, we fold the paper and fold it a bit more, we get 8 divisions. Yeah. I use my laser cutter at London Makerspace. What a wonderful find. It just meant I could really start to enlarge what I do and then find a community. Most of my photographers who work with me now, I've found at Makerspace. So it's building a community of people that can work together to complete projects. There's my laser, cutting a whole swab, probably about 7 pieces of paper at the same time, all the way through to do some marks for me to fold. Here's some of my designs that I've made. Oh. Let's bring all up inside my lovely hat here. Who's going to get on here? Thank you. Come on up. Come on up. So I love this one for the Scarlet Hat project. It's one of the really beautiful ones. I do think the Scarlet Hat are going to do that. It's not only colour, and I think this is going to look fabulous on you. So I'm going to put that over here. And if you can, yeah, can you help me hold that? Because I've actually concentrated that all in. That's great. Now you can just hold it beside there because I haven't done. That's it. Just hold it there, and then turn around. No, I'm going to ask it back, okay? But look, I'll swap you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Look, you don't want to see my house. You don't want to see the rooms in my house. They are crowded. They really are. I've even got a warehouse where I put my things, all right? But this was a little photograph, and there is a purpose for that. I didn't just take a photograph of myself looking in the mirror. I'm not the greatest model. I wish I had you at home, but I don't. So, hey, okay. It's about visualization. I did say before that I used AI to do my visualization. So here are some more AI models. Just helping me to visualize. You can see it's exactly the same form. I've just put it on a mannequin or on myself. And then I've said to Gemini, place this hat on a couture model in a darkened environment. Voila. Here she is. Now let me show you the reveal a part of the process. And then maybe you won't be angry with me for doing AI. All right? As long as you use it, I think, really effectively, it's a great tool. So this lovely lady displaying this hat, which worked better? The first or the second? The first was better. Okay, so I may have done another extension, just said, can you please put her in something a bit more couture? And I use that word couture. I have no idea what it means, but it seems to work. Okay. What was the original photograph? Brace yourself.
I think that's
No.
the best one.
Let's not ask that question. Okay, so you think I should post these ones?
Yeah.
Well, you know me well now. I can do that, but I don't think it's going to get the same. Oh, come on. Let's have a look. Come on, let's have a look. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, actually, well, I don't know. I might disagree with that one. Who knows? Maybe in the future you'll see it there. So, hey.
Look at this look.
Hey.
Hey, look at this look. Oh yeah. Hey, look at this look. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, look at this look. Oh yeah. Hey, look at this look. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, look at this look. Oh yeah.
You see, I don't think I could have done that hat service. I don't think me walking down the stairs with that hat on. I really don't think it would have worked. So I think it is important to put on real models, obviously. So the visualization is just, in fact, I don't post it in my visualizations. I'm not at that stage. I don't think it's a good idea because then people are going to accuse me of all of my work being AI. You know, so it's that sort of idea. I use it as a tool. So you're lucky enough to see that because I don't show that to people. Oh yes, I told you about working. You know, this lady, I met her through her husband at Makerspace. Her name is Alessandra Roschetti. She is an art house photographer. So rather than a fashion photographer, she does these fantastic photographs of looking really at expressing the idea of this is how I feel when I see this object, rather than this is what I see. So that might be the easiest way to express art house. So I just loved having her involved in this project to give it another angle. Tell me, AI, not AI. Worth give away signs. Excuse me? It looks like slop. Well done. Okay. Yeah, well done. I think you can tell it in the sense that this is my object. So that's the object that I fed in. I said, I want you to display this in the style of Ernst Haeckel. Yes. But it really helped me because it gave me this one here. See this top one? What do we scream out? Eureka! It was a eureka moment here. Oh, there I am, raising from the bath with a what was it? I had a crown. I had a golden crown in my hand. And Socrates had said to me, "You are going to have to work out whether this is real gold or whether they've reduced us." He put himself into a bathtub and realized that there's a dispersion level. So he thought, "Eureka! I can take that crown. I can put it in some water. I can tell the weight of this crown." Eureka! I mean, that's how this all. I'm sorry, I digress. This is how the whole Eureka idea developed. It was in Sicily. This is a Sicilian for what? I have it. You certainly did. Thank you very much. This is what evolved from having a look at that AI. I started working at the fact that I can thread in 2 to 1, 2 to 1, 2 to 1, and I can start building an object. Let me show you. So this is how I fold it. I don't do it this quickly, unfortunately, but it's actually quite a quick process. All right, so I fold it along here, and I fold it along the other way. Voila. I know. There you go. And I make myself these units. And then what I do is, like I said before, a bit of glue stick, just hydrize, origami people hydrize this. Yeah. Glue it together. And voila, let me start sewing two into one. So the whole form starts to open up into that fractal type of effect. Lovely. And there you go. So I say I'll get back to the Origami Society and the exhibition that I did there. All right. So working with another photographer, I was able to get some really nice professional shots here. No glue. You'll be happy to know. No stringing up. You'll also be happy to know it's not origami. Do apologize. It's Kirigami. So I worked out this way, eureka, where I could actually knit my hinges in together, and it would form it would form a spring almost. Thank you. So that's a spring. It's springy. I've got an example that you can have a look at later on. And then I could twist it, and I could do 2 to 1, 2 to 1, and make it into my fractal. Yeah, I could put it on myself on my head. Yeah. Cut it with a laser cutter. Help out by my cat. Go to Japan and research kimonos. Put it on a model that I met through Wave Makerspace. And then practice the performance with her. Give her some sticks inside there so she can make butterfly movements. There it is, there, the piece. It transforms from a sculpture into a gown. And also during the event, I'd call the event a performance art. I actually told the story of Hegemono's Robe, which is a Knoll play that I learned when I was in Japan. And I just retold the story about the maiden that lowered herself from because and visited a fisherman because she lost her cape. We finally gave the cape back to her, and she did the most beautiful dance. Look at that. We're getting to the end there, guys. So a couple of minutes for questions, but there I am. I was invited to go to Melbourne for the OSME, the Origami in Science, Mathematics, and Engineering Conference. And there I presented, so they paid for my trip. I did the plenary presentation. I presented alongside Tomoko Fuse, my guru, and then everybody else was a professor from universities around the world. And there I was. Well, I did the education type part of it, but it was just such a lovely thrill. There I am with my trouble bit. Yeah. What is your element? Have a think, please. Never underestimate the vital importance of finding early in life the work that for you is play. This turns possible underachievements into happy warriors. So this is maybe a little bit of a call out for educators, for thinking about young people when they're thinking about what are they going to do for their future, what really is their resonance, what resonates with them. So I'll leave you with that question. And understand. Thank you, Viva School, and thank you, British Origami Society, for welcoming me to do this. And Bacon School
for hosting us here, because without Bacon School and without this facility, we wouldn't have done it. Everything is done on enthusiasm. So thank you for coming. Before we move on to the next one, are there any questions? We mentioned questions several times, but we didn't ask for questions. Yes?
Now that's a really good question. There is a quality to paper that is a memory. Paper holds a fold. and then it can be reprogrammed. So you can fold it the other way and it will hold that fold too. Now, I use fabric sometimes and bond paper onto it. It's a bit of a cheating one. You can use fabric and you can actually adhere to heat. So you've seen that with Isiamaki, and you can see what his fabrics can do. You've seen that whole process. But using a fabric, I'm looking for metal materials. Hopefully someone's going to come up with a metal material that really is very waterproof and that still has the same memory that paper has. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask what sort of paper you use. I saw there
Oh,
was a
really
reference
good
to
question. I missed that out.
hide or something. Elephant hide paper?
Yes. Are you a folder yourself?
I try.
I've got some elephant hide for you. Yeah.
Right. And do you always use the same paper?
I use elephant hide mostly. In fact, also with I've just found that it's so tensile within hinges. It really holds a very, very small hinge. I've not found any other paper can do that. So I ordered this from Germany. Yeah. But in respect to that, I do a lot of duo paper. So I will bond different types of papers, like mulberry papers, using a permanent bond to my elephant hide. So I'm sort of starting to move towards other papers.
We had Robert Lang coming here from California for the British Origami convention, and he ran laser folding was.
Yes.
And because elephant hide is quite expensive, we were looking for the next best. And the next best gave up the day to go. So we ended up with drafting paper.
Lovely.
Because our DT department has stocks of old drafting paper that is not in use anymore.
Actually, and it's very tensile, drafting paper.
It is
So it does.
fantastic, but
Yeah.
I don't know where to source it.
Yes, no,
Okay, there was
use
a couple of questions on this side.
Just have you tried vellum?
I have tried vellum, absolutely. Yeah, and unfortunately, vellum doesn't compact hold fold. It springs out. So for some of my folds, it's great, but not with everything. So I've been through a lot of papers, yes.
I've got the paper as well.
Yes.
It's interesting when you're laser cutting. Does the paper, is the other paper you use, is not going on the
Oh, look, I like my burns. So actually, a lot of my pieces actually have burn marks in them. And in fact, they're quite beautiful. I don't try to hide the process. I think it's actually quite nice, my little burn marks.
Some more questions. And
Oh, yes, please. Oh, I could take questions all day, but I've got to set up for a workshop. So, yes, so if I can take 2 more questions. Yes.
I was just wondering, what the drawstrings through
Yes.
the holes, does it end up looking the paper, or is that because you're using it so?
I just think when you have en masse, and it's all those sort of evolutionary things that come through and engineering things, when you have something en masse, it distributes all of the pressures. So you don't have that much. You just every little eyelet holds a little bit of the tension. But yes, it does sometimes rip.
There was a question in the back there.
Yes.
I was curious about the makerspace.
Yes.
Tell us more about it.
Yeah. So, I really don't think there is enough makerspaces in this world. And in fact, there was a big push in them probably about 20 years ago. They've all disappeared because it's so difficult to get rent. It's so expensive for rent in the different places to set up these workshops. Please campaign your governments to say that this is a hub of innovation. In fact, they've done studies about innovation that say that if you have people that just create without the boundaries of a workplace, clients, they can make true innovation. And this is where you will meet true innovators. So we do need more of these sessions. I pay £25 a month, probably why they can't pay their rent. I have free access to a laser cutter. Think about that. Amazing. So, it was a eureka when I found it. Yeah. But yes, please, scream out to me.
If you Google for York Hackspace,
Yes.
there is a local Hackspace. Yeah.
All right. Eureka! Eureka! Well done. Woodwork, metalwork, ceramics, you name it. 3D printing, laser cutting, textiles, sewing machines, and printmaking. All there.
Okay, one last question from this side. There was a couple of hands here, but sorry,
Anything else, or have I already covered it? Or do you feel sorry for me?
Okay, so thank you very much for coming. I hope you will.